Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the self-titled country debut of Eric Paslay. You know, I got the sinking feeling that bro country isn't going away. No, despite Casey Musgraves winning the Grammy for Best Country Album for Same Trailer, Different Park, a well-deserved win, I might add, it doesn't mean that the country music paradigm is gonna change overnight. And some of the bigger bro country acts, they aren't gonna just evaporate. Like in the aftermath of the club boom of 2009-2011, the B-listers are gonna be the ones that fall away, leaving the heavyweights, well, they're gonna stick around. But that's not gonna say that bro country is going to stay around in the same form as it was. And if you take a look at the hits, at least the most recent hits from Luke Bryan, Florida Georgia Line, and Blake Shelton, they've opted to move away from the summertime party anthem into mid-tempo relationship songs, with somewhat mixed results. For Blake Shelton, it's an easy shift. He's making this sort of material for well over a decade, and for Luke Bryan, he's handling it reasonably well too. But Florida Georgia Line's Stay, it's clumsy, overwrought, and really hard to take seriously. And it's becoming apparent that that band might not have a lot of staying power outside of Cruise. But you know what? Maybe I'm even wrong about that, because there are still acts that are looking to hop onto the good time bro country bandwagon, which takes us to Eric Paslay, another country singer with a criminally underwritten Wikipedia page. He's struck a hit with his song Friday Night in late last year, which he's clearly trying to jump onto the bro country trend. But you know what? He doesn't strike me as the image of the typical bro country act. For one, he's older. He's 31 at the time of this review. And for another, he's got major writing credits on all of his songs. He doesn't quite look the part of a bro country singer. And you know what? If that wasn't convincing, his collaborating work with Amy Grant, of all people, might be indicative that we're dealing with someone different than the typical bro country paradigm. And while I did think that Friday Night was played out and not really all that interesting, I had a feeling that there was more to Eric Paslay than what immediately met the eye. So I checked out his debut self-titled album. How was it? Well, I was right that there is more to Eric Paslay. A lot more, as we might be dealing with one of the best mainstream country albums of the year. Believe me, I'm as shocked as everyone, but Eric Paslay's self-titled album is genuinely great. A moving, emotionally compelling record with nuance, intelligence, maturity, and a distinctive sense of identity. It sounds like nothing else on the radio, and that's a great thing. It very quickly becomes abundantly clear that Friday Night, it was simply used to get this guy's name out there, because along with the album opener Keep On Fallin', it's the weakest track on the album, which is a whole lot better than it might originally let on. And really, I'm at a bit of a loss of where to even start with this album. So let's talk about the instrumental direction, because at least initially, I had no idea how to classify this album. It was a little bit too polished and a little too weak to truly rock, but it didn't really fit in the country flair either. I mean, it had some of it with the steel guitars and the fast-picked acoustic instrumentation, but it decidedly shuns most mainstream country instrumentation. It doesn't really have the auto-tune, doesn't really use drum machines. It's a decidedly organic experience, which I really appreciated. The guitars are smooth, but they do have some snarl with real texture and presence. And there's a significantly greater breadth in the strings and orchestral elements to support Paslay on this record. Honestly, the guitar work puts me most in mind of the Americana-drenched acts of the mid-80s, like, say, Bryan Adams. And Paslay's got an uncanny knack for some great guitar melody choices that never quite sound conventional. They're familiar, but they're never quite conventional. They're always subtly different. And the guitar tonal choices, they're just great. Always sounding cohesive with the rest of the track, and yet giving plenty of songs a lot of unique texture on their own. Tracks in the vein of Like a Song, or Good with Wine, or Song About a Girl, they don't rely on reverb or heavy guitar force, mostly because the melodies are so good and have so much driving momentum that they don't need to. Talk about a shift in country music. I definitely dug that. And you know what? The more I think about it, the more the Bryan Adams comparison really does hold up, especially when we move into Paslay's vocals. Now, I will say that his voice is probably the weakest element on this album, and that he's not a great singer on a technical level. But you know what? I don't think anyone told him that, because he still managed to sell me on his vocals through pure charisma, earnestness and his ability to convey a ton of complex emotions through his delivery. There are some tracks on this record that really require a tricky emotional balance to pull off effectively, like Never Really Wanted and the downright incredible She Don't Love You. And Paslay, he just nails it. Most of this comes from his age. This is an album where the songwriting is decidedly more mature, and the delivery needs a certain amount of emotional nuance to effectively support it. And Paslay, he is really up to that challenge, which was a big, great surprise for me. And this is where we get to the element that really got to me in a great way. The songwriting on this album is goddamn fantastic, to the point where it actually made the two nominally religious tracks actually pretty damn good all on their own. And they work because, number one, they're not preachy, they feel very sincere, and Paslay knows enough to keep these songs rooted outside of the God paradigm into something more relatable and Countryside of Heaven, or something that's deeply abstract and deep as it is wide. But both those songs aren't where Paslay wins the big points with me. It's in the maturity and nuance in his songwriting. Never Really Wanted talks about a girl who Paslay rejected and now she's with somebody else, and how he's feeling jealous. But the song never frames him as being in the right. He's the one who made the mistake by not going for her, and it focuses on the message to keep your eyes open and be aware and considerate of other people's feelings. Like a song and Song About a Girl might sound initially like standard bro country tracks lyrically, but Paslay locks the focus on the romance and the girl in question, and then tosses all the rest of the country tropes out like the needless chaff that they are. And then you have Good With Wine, which contrasts the hard-living whiskey lifestyle that he had before with the classy wine that he drinks with this girl now, which works as wonderful subtext about how to hold on to a serious relationship, sometimes you need to grow up and you need to mature a little bit, and how the pleasures that come with that growing up and come with that maturity can sometimes be just as rewarding. And then She Don't Love You. Folks, this will be one of the best songs of the year, mark my words. It's one of the few slow ballads on this album. It's a song about a girl who has emotionally detached through so many hookups and heartbreaks that she doesn't bother searching for love in the same way. And then the true element of tragedy is revealed in the final verse, that Paslay was the first one to love and leave her and start the whole cycle. And it's a strength of his delivery that makes you really sad for the both of them. The heartbroken girl who can't trust relationships now in the same way and now breaks hearts of nice guys who are just looking for a love, and a clear bit of irony. And then you have Paslay himself, who clearly feels a lot of guilt and remorse for hurting this girl originally, but it's also where he's a guy who had to go on his road to chase his dreams and become successful. In the end, both people are lonely, and the song never really frames either of them on being in the right because she doesn't move on and he broke her heart in the first place. And while the song never really mentions any history between these two, you can tell that there's just so much more beneath the surface that probably should remain unsaid. And honestly, it adds a ton of real pathos to the track that I really found effective. Look guys, in the end, this album is absolutely great, transcending the bro country single that introduced Eric Paslay to the world into something that's so much stronger. Don't be discouraged by those first two songs on the record, which honestly are pretty passable for bro country songs. And then you guys should all check this album out. The songwriting is mature and intelligent. The instrumentation has flavor and texture. And Paslay, well, he brings a lot of real passion and emotion into this album in a way I just could not have expected. Guys, it's an 8 out of 10 and a very solid recommendation. If you've heard Friday Night on the radio and you've discounted Eric Paslay as just another interchangeable bro country artist, well, you're doing yourself a disservice. Check this guy out and check out his self-titled album. You will not regret it. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. If there's any other albums you'd like me to cover coming up this year, or if there's anything I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'd be more than happy to hear it. Until then, see you next time.